Hey guys, this is January,
This is Marz.
and you are listening or watching to Femmes at Large, Femininity, and whatever you want to talk about. So here, we're basically just trying to make sense of the world and bring it to how it relates to femininity in a non-toxic, non-patriarchal way, and just celebrating femininity where we can, and just trying to like have fun because it's really hard out here in life. So that's where we're at. But yeah, Mars, how you doing today, friend? What's going on with you?
Everything unfortunately is going on. I feel it's always everything is always happening all at once, but especially right now in this climate that we're in, it's been very heavy. So I have needed this for sure.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, me too. Like it's been like a crazy week of just like trying to take breaks from social media and everything going on, but also like staying intact, but then also like dealing with real life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just taking space where I can, but I'm so thankful for the space we're in that we get to just talk about stuff and have a good time. So I'm super
Yes.
excited. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the media segment. So Mars,
Mm-hmm.
what we got for today? What you want to talk about? What's going on?
Okay. Maybe you can cut this out if you want, but when we were last working on this, we had kind of touched on the Chrisean and Blueface.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been getting any of that
I'm not
media.
as like I'm literally like kind of caught up. I know that Blueface posted his kid like a picture that was like whatever, and I just kind of after that I just stopped listening. But you catch me
Yeah.
up. What have I missed?
So again, this is everything that I know is against my will, but for what I can share as of today, they're no longer together, so I'm quite happy for her. I'm very happy for her. She's doing her best. To my knowledge, she has custody of the baby. He's now moved on to his new baby mother, and they had got into it. They weren't together for like 25, maybe 26 hours. Then they got back together. He treats her like a dog, but then he's still blowing up Krishan's phone. There's this interview of Krishan and Jason Lee, the messiest man on earth. And she's like, she recorded a phone call because he called her, and the new girlfriend, is like screaming at him because he called her. Anyway, I just wanted to touch her. I'm just very proud of her and I'm happy for her. And that picture of her holding that baby in the Walmart was crazy. But in that interview with Jason Lee, she touches on how, she has to be very vulnerable right now, like as a new mom. Like, there's no guidebook, there's no rule book on like how to parent, and she's like young and she's trying her best, and she literally was like very raw and real and was like, instead of recording me in that moment, you could have like helped me, you could have like, been a sister and been like, hey, you need to support his neck. And instead everybody wants to make a mockery of her, which like that is the price you pay by deciding to be in reality television, but at the same time she's still a human being, and I have a lot of empathy for that girl. And had a rough go at it, and so I'm rooting for her, and I just wanted to talk about her a little bit.
No.
I'm rooting for her.
Yeah, I'm rooting for
She's
her
gonna do
too.
okay
Yeah, it just sounds
as long as
like
she stays away from that man.
yeah, it sounds like a toxic situation. It sounds like you know, I'm just happy that she's finding some sort of security, and
Mm-hmm.
like it just sucks she has to like essentially grow up or learn in front of everybody. But hopefully, there's enough of like good community out there that could be like, hey, like maybe you should try this. So, she's in our prayers, I guess, for sure. Yeah,
She's definitely, she has some praying grandmothers for sure. She has some prayer warriors that are on her team
yeah.
because when she was with that man. But anyway, on to the next girl that I'm praying for every day, Chloe. There's rumors, there's people saying that she might be with child.
Oh wait, you mean Halle?
Yes, Halle.
Yeah,
I pray for Chloe too. But Halle, yes, there's
yeah,
rumors with that man that she may. And again, he's not the worst choice,
yeah,
He seems to have his own money, nowhere near their money because their
yeah,
money is much longer.
yeah,
But he's just I just there's always like the most beautiful talented woman you've ever seen, and then a man like,
yeah.
I just want better for our girls. I
Yeah,
just
I
do.
I uh I
I
feel
don't want her
like,
to be trapped.
yeah, it just seems like a trapping situation. I mean, granted,
Ugh.
like money wise, I think that like he has it. Like I don't think he doesn't have it, but like just the energy, it just seemed kind of weird. Cause then it was like I had heard that maybe he was trying to like do a prank and like have her pregnant, but even then, it's like why would you ruin the career? Cause like it's hard for women with babies to like be taken seriously in their career. So it just seemed kind of strange. It's like that guy that you kind of date as a black woman where it's just like you got to learn from it. And I don't want her to learn a lesson harder than she
I don't want her to have to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really don't.
But I guess
But
we
you know
got
what
to
I'm
be
saying?
good parents, and just be like, you got to learn on your own and like we'll still be here
Right.
regardless. So,
Right. Yeah, I'm very much, you like it, I love it, girl. As long as he's not, you know what I'm saying, knocking you
yeah.
around, being verbally abusive. He is one of those types of guys that, like, he definitely pokes fun to humble her.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But he's also, like, a YouTuber in the era of pranks, so he is just annoying. That could be it, too. I might be, like, over
Yeah.
psychoanalyzing him. But, yeah, again, I just want better for our girls. But here's one of the last things that I wanted to touch on. You, as an Atlantean, I am in Orlando, for those that don't know. Keith Lee coming through Orlando. Or no, coming through Atlanta. What was that like for you?
So, my thoughts because
Uh-huh.
so I've been vegan for the past 4 years. So thankfully, I
Right,
have
right,
not
right.
have to deal with a lot of these restaurants.
Exactly. You've taken me to some great places.
Exactly. But before I became vegan, I had experienced some of these places or like even like brunch spots, right? So one time I went to a brunch spot for my friend's birthday and we're like, yeah, let's go. And we got like maybe like a couple pictures of mimosas. We each got like our
Mm-hmm.
own meal and maybe a hookah. I don't know.
Oh.
We like did that, right? And so they're like, okay, let's split it. Let's split it. We're like, yeah, sure. Like I'm making money, whatever, split it. Why was it like 120 per person?
You're lying to me.
Mind you, the service was slow. And they were nice, and I danced. I had a good time. You vibing, whatever.
Right, of course. Yeah,
But
there's a
I was
DJ.
like, I'm sitting there looking at the itemized. I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about it. And so, like, every time someone says something about Atlanta and Keith Lee, I think of that moment because I remember thinking, I know I shouldn't have paid this much. And you got to pay for parking because down in Atlanta, you get booted just for looking wrong. And it's just like, I was just like, this isn't even worth it. And I got really upset.
No.
And then, they looking at you like, oh, can you not afford it? I can afford it, but it's just not right because it wasn't worth my little Impossible Burger and 2 or 3 mimosas.
2 or 3 at that.
You know what I'm saying? So I just felt very slighted. And so I can understand why Keith Lee was just confused because it don't make sense.
Right.
But
It doesn't make any sense.
Atlanta's not real life. I think people got to understand culturally, like, it's like black celebrity. And that's weird in itself because black celebrity is weird. Like, you want certain standards, you're pretentious to a degree. Not everybody, but some. And, like, you're going to have reservations canceled. You're going to be waiting an hour to 2 hours for no apparent reason for food. That's just okay. But to have a black space where you're dancing and having a good time and, like, enjoying food. So, I mean, it's a lot. I think that, like, I don't think he understood the culture he was in because Atlanta culture is weird. But I also think that we do need better customer service. We do need better food. And most of the spots he went to, I probably wouldn't go to. I'd probably go to other spots surrounding Atlanta and not so much in it. And, but like, even like I just went to New York and I got to try all this good vegan food and stuff. And it made me realize like, culinary experience in Atlanta is just, it needs to be better. If you're gonna be like fine dining or like it's worth all this money, then you need to come with the customer service and the experience.
No, it better be. If I'm paying, what did you say, 100 something at one brunch for one morning? Y'all may be there for 2, maybe 3 hours.
This is between 5 people now. All 5 of us were paying at least 120.
They're robbing people blind.
Robbing.
It better be warm towels, like after I eat, like there needs to be like white linen. I don't know. I just feel like we've lost the plot in Atlanta and people are just so consumed by the celebrity because there are so many concentrated in that area. But like you said, like New York City, there are many famous people concentrated in that area. depending on where you go, like it would have to be a very like high end place for them to be like, no, we're gonna sit them before everyone else. Like otherwise, they don't care who you are. Like you would have to have such a status to be able to pull something like that, to where
Yeah.
you can skip a 2 hour wait or an hour wait. And there were a lot of people that had a lot to say about Keith Lee, about what, like, one of my favorite TikToks was them saying like he was going hungry for like the first 2 days because he couldn't eat nowhere because they wanted to like give him this express, fast pass line just because he has however many million followers.
Yeah.
And the reason why people like Keith Lee is because he is a normal person.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, he's gonna give it to you straight. He has no reason to lie to you. Nobody's paying him. Like TikTok pays him, but they pay him because we watch him. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they've really lost the plot, and I feel like there was a point in time where Atlanta was probably a really big foodie city, because I remember when you first moved out, like, you were like, you know what I'm saying, at all these places, and they're so consumed now with the status of saying, oh, this person was here today, and putting it on the Instagram story, rather than, like, the lines and lines of people, because everybody, my money is just as green as everybody else's, you know what I'm saying? Like, my card swipes the same way. It may not be an Amex, but I can afford to eat here. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't come out of my way if I couldn't afford to eat here. Yeah. So I just find that insane. Right. Did you see what Ocho Cinco had to say about him and how quickly he folded when Keith responded?
When Keith came, because also too, like, if you don't know something, don't speak on it. Like, not fully,
okay.
You know, like, if there's a general like idea of, okay, this makes sense, but like, I was like, bro, why you coming at him like you really don't know or whatever? And I'm glad that Keith like stood up for himself eloquently, just coming with the facts. So I'm like, bro, like, you really don't know this, what's going on, and have you really eaten in Atlanta? Cause him and his cheap behind, that man don't like paying for nothing. If he came to these restaurants,
really,
cause like he was on the same show with the dude, I forgot his name or whatever, on that same show,
Shannon Sharp.
He was ragging on him for buying a $10,000 Pomeranian. So I'm pretty sure.
Oh, he don't pay for nothing.
He don't like it. So I'm like, okay, if you were a regular person and you went into a restaurant, they didn't, or if he went in and they didn't recognize him because there's younger people working.
Right. They wouldn't know who Ocho Cinco is.
How would you feel if you didn't get like, that's messed up. Like, I don't care how you slice it. Like, if you're gonna do a celebrity status thing, have a certain space or a lot time and planning. But my thing is like, Atlanta restaurants don't really pay their workers.
Okay.
Like, they're trying to skip all the stuff off the top. So it's like, it's not a good experience. You know what I'm saying? Because you're too busy trying to cut corners instead of making, like, if you're going to do that, at least make, like, either pay your workers more or make the experience better and put the money in it. You're going to get more money out of it.
They think they can slap a grass wall up against the, you know what I'm saying? And then suddenly we get to charge 25% gratuity before I've even eaten anything.
No, literally.
That don't, and then it's not like it's going to the servers. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I really doubt that all these fees and everything that they charge in. Yeah, but back to, I have one comment to make about Ocho Cinco. It was the way he like villainized him so heavily, and it's because he doesn't know, and he's just commenting on like the headlines. He probably hasn't watched a single video of Keith's until Keith responded to him. But he was acting like he was going through these places like Kitchen Nightmares, Gordon Ramsay, going in the kitchen, showing all their disgusting, molding food. Like, he was just like, I couldn't even sit down to eat. Exactly. And that was my genuine, real experience that I had. And that's going to probably most likely be the genuine experience that you have as a regular customer, because I sent my family. I did not go in because he knew that they would have rolled out a red carpet for him. That's not what he wants. Yeah. He thrives. In fact, he further proved his point by being like, I don't know who Keith Lee is, blah, blah, blah. That's the point. He wants it that way. He wants to live as a normal person.
That's how Atlanta is, though, too. It was a mess. But yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, because yes, I had thoughts, and like trying out vegan food in New York was literally like one of the most mind-blowing experiences. Like, having vegan hospitality chains, like, and they all are like good service. I'm like, I can't even imagine what it's like for regular people who eat, like, aren't vegan, like what that experience is like. So I'm like, seeing that, and then coming back here and I'm paying $30 extra for food that's just okay. It bothered me. I was like, I'm not doing it.
And it should.
I'm not doing it no more. Exactly. So yeah.
But yeah, that was the current events I wanted to touch on. Just a couple things that was happening this week.
Love
So.
it. I appreciate you, friend. You really got us centered and ready for the day. So thank you. Okay, so on to the topic today. It's gonna be femininity and America's Next Top Model. We're gonna go into how Tyra Banks changed the globe with bringing more diversity and inclusion, but at what cost? Did it really affect change, and who was really affected at the end of the day? So we're gonna go into that. So Marz, what's your experience with ANTM? When did you first start? Like, how did it come to be that you started watching America's Next Top Model?
I would definitely say I probably started in like the first or second season for sure. Like I was watching very early on. I was very young. Outside of it, like before I can even talk about like the mental toll and like how it affected me internally, I mean, just as a lover of pop culture, I had to like there's so many, it's like Housewives, like Housewives of Atlanta. There's so many like culturally significant like points in that show that I cannot, just push aside. But yeah, I mean, definitely being young and seeing the one plus size representation be someone that at the time was maybe a size 14 is so insane. Like there was psychic damage happening at the ripe age of 8 or 10 years old. Like the way they were tearing those women to shreds over even the suggestion of a role, even the slight appearance of cellulite. Like it was insane. So I would definitely say culturally significant. Like I love pop culture and I love Y2K, anything Y2K in the 2000s, but the body image and the critique of women's bodies that at the time were zeros and double zeros. Woo.
Yeah.
How would you say your experience was? Probably pretty similar.
Yeah, to a degree. Like, so I started around like 10, and I remember, I just solely remember watching the finale of Eva and Yaya at the bottom, at the top two of like who's gonna get picked. And I remember it was just such a big deal because we didn't see that a lot. Like, it was always either one like pick me, or like it was never like two black women could possibly be the best models in America. So that's where I started. And I was just like, whoa, what the fuck is this? I gotta like figure out, what's going on. And it's crazy because I think it really like conceptualized like to be black and feminine, what that should look like, and more so for me. And I think it like put boundaries on, okay, what does that look like? How are you supposed to be? It's already tougher for you, so it's gonna like you need to like focus on these things. And I think it hindered me in that way of like, how to be, because like I felt like they would take different types of black women and like characterize you as that one thing, and you couldn't really get out that box. You couldn't be like gender non-conforming or fluid. And I know it was different times. It was different times, but for me, I think that's kind of where it was a lot, where it was just like, okay, no, like this is how it's supposed to be. You have to be 10 times better. You're gonna get ridiculed more, and that's okay. Like it was a lot. So at the end of the day, I think for me, it was just crazy to see black women being in this type of spotlight and actually getting opportunities. But again, what we're going to say, at what cost?
At what cost?
At cost. So
yes.
We're going to start off with Tyra herself. She was born December 4th, 1973, a Sag. Take that as you will, whatever that means to you. She was born in Inglewood, California. Her parents were divorced. Inglewood. Right. Her parents were divorced, but she said it was okay because that meant double the love. She experienced bullying growing up. She was called like the ugly duckling. Like her height was an issue, her forehead was an issue, and her skinniness was an issue. But also from like some sources, they said that she ended up becoming a bully kind of in her later teenage years. And I don't have like succinct sources saying that. So this could be just somebody from her old hood saying she was mean. But I do see trends of bullying that we saw in America's Next Top Model, particularly towards women of color or black women. So I thought that was an interesting thorough line of like, okay, like, were you a bully? has your trauma in the past affected you, and why do you come so hard for Black women? So there's that. There's also the beef between her and other supermodel Naomi Campbell. You know, also like we do know that there was media that influenced that because, you know, they always pit Black women against each other. But then you kind of wonder like, like, was there some stuff from her trauma that came into that piece that affected America's Next Top Model later? So just some thoughts and background on the creator. So how did ANTM come to be? Tyra Banks wanted to push for diversity and inclusion in the modeling world. She felt that there wasn't enough of it, which there wasn't. It was very white. And so her and Ken Mock came to CBS with the idea, and from there, history was made. The show started in 2003, and it started off with 10 contestants, and from there, it ended up being 24 cycles in all.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about. I don't know. What cycle did you stop watching? I think I stopped like at 14.
I want to feel like 10 or something like that. Like it wasn't that I'm 24.
That's a lot. I didn't even realize it because I know I didn't watch it when there was men and women on it.
No, I had seen clips, but I never like sat down to watch that at the time because it also like stopped being ANTM because there were different like countries as well. On the show from the clips that I had seen. Again, this is just from what my memory I can remember, but yeah, definitely like into the 10s maybe. I watched that far. Okay. The 2010s, yeah. Yeah,
that sounds about right. Yeah, it was pretty much the same for me because after a while it just started to kind of get like, it wasn't that great, but in its heyday, it was like conversation started. Everybody was like, yo, like, did you watch? Like, it was a movement. So one of the biggest questions is, was Top Model helpful or harmful in its interpretation of femininity in mainstream media during that time? So, like, at that time, I feel like from what I could remember of mainstream media, it was still very, like, gendered, still very, like, this is how women should act. You know, we had like Britney Spears at the top of her, you know, in her prime. I think Janet Jackson's Super Bowl, was that happened around that time? Was it
2003, 2004? That sounds
about right. Yeah.
Around that time.
It was just like, I think really good examples of like how femininity was demonized and how it was like, okay, this is how you should act as a woman. You shouldn't be showing any parts of your body that we don't want to see or that a man doesn't want to see. You need to be skinny, you need to be dainty, you need to be this. And I think Tyra came in and she kind of broke that up, especially in the modeling world. She was just like, no, like, I'm going to get someone that's a little bit bigger than their standard model. I'm going to get someone who's trans. I'm going to get someone who, you know, and like for me, seeing a Black trans woman on TV, that was the only like experience I had with seeing trans women on TV besides like maybe Oprah and like bringing people on. But like even that was toxic too, like the way she kind of brought it. That's a whole other story.
Don't get me started on Oprah. Don't get me started on Miss Winfrey. Y'all not gonna like me. Y'all not gonna like what I have to say.
Yeah. No. What you gotta say, Fred? No.
We'll save that for another episode.
Nah, like...
I got things to say.
It was a lot, but to be fair to Tyra, she exposed us to different types of people and stories that we never would have come in contact with, but at what cost? Because it just felt like the stories were sensationalized or a little razzle dazzle was added because we're in that period of reality TV becoming what it is now.
Yes.
I think like we still were like transitioning because it was like right before like the 2008 writer's strike. So like, or no, yeah. So like basically it was like you had reality trying to figure out who their audience was and how to keep the audience. And in that, Tyra was making these girls go through some of the worst challenges I think we've ever seen to this day that were probably like really like scary and like illegal,
life-threatening.
There should have been something against them.
It was really a lawless land, reality television at that time. Like looking back, I'm like, how did this get greenlit? Yeah. But it was a whole new world, and you know all these rules and regulations hadn't been put into place yet. But no, she was quite literally, in some cases, risking their lives. You know, they were threatened with like injuries depending on the challenges. Like they could really have injured. Like there were challenges where they were wearing insanely, like ridiculously high heels that you would like most likely never wear in a fashion show. But it's like, if you're a model, you're gonna have, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna have to walk on stilts, and these girls don't know how to walk on stilts, and they were looking like Bambi and breaking their ankles. Like there were like quite serious implications to their health.
No, literally.
And that's just the price you pay if you want to be America's Next Top Model.
Like, the whole time models are like, yeah, we don't have to do that. Like, we just
None of that. They barely, like, there's not even emphasis on walking anymore. Mm-hmm. So, like, have you seen a fashion show recently? Yeah. Kendall Jenner is considered a supermodel.
That's a whole other story.
Don't get me started.
Literally, because it's just kind of like, it's just kind of crazy though, because it was just like, I remember, I think it was Carrie D, where she had almost got hypothermia one time in the pool.
Yes. And that was crazy.
It was crazy. And it was like, oh yeah, you fought through it. Like, this isn't football. We don't need
It's not Survivor.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't, like, it's modeling, bro. You literally, it's for one photo. And I was just like, it's just, is it worth putting these girls through this and, like, them having trauma? Like, there's probably women that have to recount that, like, damn, I really went through all that, and y'all weren't really paying me, and we barely got fed. Like, it was so many, researching this, it was so many examples of just, like, violations just to, like, humanity of, like, you're not giving them food, you're not giving them water for real, you're holding them so they're not getting bathroom breaks. Like, you're putting them through all this stuff. Like, I think parts of them really should, like, get investigated for this stuff, but I guess because it's so long ago that people are just like, yeah, like, it happened, you know, we're sorry. But
it was a different time. Yeah, we might be out of the statute of limitations on certain things, but I 100% agree. It was a lawless land, and anything for TV went at that time. Yeah. Like their lives, their health was never put into question. Yeah. But I don't know if this is like a part of the notes, but there was like a huge thing about one of the models. I can't remember which season, but they had assumed that she was like not eating or like anorexic.
Yes, see, I think that was Eva's season.
Is it? Yeah, it feels like it was. Yeah.
It was.
There was a whole thing, like, I guess one of the girls had, like, snitched on her and saying that, like, you know, she has been eating and blah, blah, blah. And, like, Tyra had to, like, corner her and sit her down. So it's like, you care to a certain extent. Like, you want them to, like, have an insane diet regimen. They're not making any money, so they can't buy their own food. So I don't know how they're supposed to be, like, getting all of this healthy food when they're marooned in a hotel for 6 to 8 weeks. Or 9 weeks. You know, they're held to these insane body standards, so, like, you better not gain a pound, but also you better make sure you eat, but also I'm not going to give you any money to make sure that you can get appropriate food. Like, it was just fascinating to me.
It actually was super hypocritical.
Yeah.
It was just, like, especially with that scenario, I feel like Tyra used that to look like the good guy and, like, be like, oh, yeah, like, I'm helping these women. And I'm just like, are you? Like, you're actually probably inducing more stress and causing them to, like, go back into not eating or throwing up or whatever. So, yeah, that was a weird episode. Because I watched that, and I was just like, the way she came at her was really, like, aggressive. It was like, oh, like, you need to do this or that. I'm like, man, like, let's have some empathy. But there was different times then, like, it was pretty crazy. So, yeah, it was pretty rough. Basically, that was trash. But also, like, on top of just the treatment of all the women on the show, I want to really focus on the treatment of Black women and women of color on the show, for sure, because there definitely was a difference. You know, and it just is like, through a lot of the interviews that I've watched, a lot of, like, the biggest moments that happened were with women of color. Like, that one interview I think I sent you with ABC News, where they, like, talked about all the egregious things that happened. Like, all the women they talked to, the top 5 moments were all Black women. Like, yeah, Tiffany, they talked about Yaya. You know, it just was just like, dang, like, why did she do this? Like, it just was, like, really crazy. Did you notice that at all when you were watching?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say at the time because, you know, being younger, you don't really understand colorism or the dynamics that darker skinned people versus lighter skinned people face, let alone even in the modeling industry. But looking back, like Yaya and Tiffany are definitely two big ones that stick out to me. Yaya being that not only was she black and she was of darker skin tone, but she was so proudly pro-black, pro-Africa, expressing the beauty of African women. And she was constantly put down or saying that she's typecasting herself with the whole Africa thing. Or saying that, like, she's doing too much. Like, she was constantly told, like, to tone it down. And then, of course, with Tiffany, her whole, we were rooting for you. Like, obviously, I know that, like, line by line. It's an iconic moment in pop culture history. But looking back, like, she would have never acted that way if there was a white contestant that decided that they didn't care and they were just going to leave. Like, I'm sure to a certain degree, because she does have quite an ego of herself, especially at that point in the game. Like, she was the queen mother, like, in, like, RuPaul's Drag Race terms. Like, she was RuPaul, like, she walked into the room and it's, oh, Tyra, So I'm sure to a certain degree she would have said something, but I don't think she would have tried to, like, mother her the way she, like, tried to mother Tiffany and, like, humble her in that moment, because she decided, you know what, like, I just don't care anymore. Like, I'm just gonna go home. And that wasn't good enough for Tyra. That was not good enough. She wanted her crying. She wanted, you know what I'm saying? Because I guess that's also not good TV. But I definitely remember.
Yeah, it was like, I remember like seeing that and being torn as a younger kid, because it reminded me of like how my mother has come at me and like how other black women can come at you sometimes. And then going through it now, interviews, I'm like, first I was like, Tyra, why are you like this? But then I was like, she reminds me of a lot of Gen Xers and elders who are black women who are just really punitive, or like, they like think that making you go through all this shit is what you need to do because they went through it, and it's like, oh, this is the rite of passage, when really you just want someone to suffer in the ways that you did, instead of just making it better for future generations and being like, like, maybe we don't have to go through this. But then also, like, I think there's just like maybe like comfort in trauma, like, of like, no, like, this is what I went through, and that's just normal. Like, why can't they get over it? Like, why, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, friend, why don't you acknowledge that what happened to you wasn't right? So why are we doing it to other people? And like, this happens with a lot of, I think, people that in like the workspace or like elders, but like I see it a lot with some black women where you're coming in like, oh yeah, black woman, I'm excited, and they just like,
and they do you worse than
they're hell. They're like really like mean, and you're just like, it hurts 10 times more because you're like, why are you doing this? Like let's say if you're Tiffany, you like, I idolized Tyra. I thought she was great. Of like course. Everybody around me thinking you great, and then you cussing me out on national television because you were insecure. Like,
yeah, because she wasn't upset. Like, you should be upset. Like that. Hearing that, like, I've definitely heard that before in my life. Yeah. Like, if you just decide that I just don't care. No, you, that's your problem. That's why everything is like that for you, because you don't care. You should care. You should be upset. Blah, blah, blah. What am I going to do? Beat myself up forever, girl? Literally. We got to move on. Like, it happened. I didn't win. I'm going to say goodbye to my friends and go. But she decided, no, this is a teachable moment. I have to, because I care about you. Girl. Did she reach out to that lady once after that show? She actually did. So she did. In my research, I got to see an interview with Tiffany with Oliver Twix on YouTube. He interviews all the ANTM models and talked to her about it, and they did keep in contact. But it was really sus, because it was kind of like, before it aired, they were keeping in contact. And so Tyra was like, back and forth, calling the grandma, all that. But then when it aired, it was silent for a minute. And and so, it just like, especially when everybody was kind of more on Tyra's side, and like, it was like dogpiling on Tiffany, so there was that. Absolutely. But then Tyra would use Tiffany to come back on the talk show and talk about it. And like, on her show. Yeah. And so it kind of felt like she was using Tiffany to a degree, which wasn't fair. And like, it just was really sus. And another insight I got was,
Like, you know how that, I don't know if you remember that episode, her and that other white woman were on the bottom two and they both went home?
Yes.
That white woman was supposed to already be going home, had went to production, was like, hey, I had something happen, I don't know, family, something or whatever, was already going home, was like, I can't do this, I gotta go home. So,
Wow.
not only was the girl doing the same thing, the white girl doing the same thing, but you didn't berate her like you did Tiffany, and you knew that. So it just was kind of like, dang, like, it's like when you grow up and you realize the truth of things, and it actually makes it 10 times worse, because it's like you really were just like going in on this girl, because how dare she have confidence? How dare she not be like groveling and begging for this opportunity that I gave her?
Right.
And I think her being black just triggered Tyra. I don't know. It just...
Absolutely.
It just sucks.
No, it felt very much like, you young black girl, me as a black woman, I paved the way, I did all this for you, and then you squander this opportunity, and you're not even, like, apologetic, you're not even, you know what I'm saying? Like, it definitely was all of that, and also her ego. Like, she wanted her to care so bad, because it's her show.
Ugh. That thing, it made me sick. I was like, listen to that interview, I was like, this is sick. But yeah, so, that happened with black women in general, and like, you know, black trans women and just other queer people too. It just wasn't right. I know, like, times were different, but at the same time it's just kind of like, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have an opportunity to create real change, but if you already feel like you're doing a lot of change, I guess she didn't think she needed to do more. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah.
So there was that. So Tyra, like, I think overall she tried her best, and she really wanted to create change. But are you really positively changing mainstream media's idea on femininity if you're constantly antagonizing one of the most oppressed groups in the world? Mm-hmm. So, you know, being black is hard. Being a black woman is hard. Being a black trans woman is hard. But somehow she was able to treat all groups under that subset like trash, and target them in a weird way, and like just not be the advocate that we needed her to be. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And I feel like after watching everything, I feel that she just like didn't have the proper tools to do that. Yeah. And I think she was trying to carry on too much. Like, it's like she was trying to be like the MLK of like modeling. The
modeling industry.
And it's just like, you can't be, because you're not educating yourself properly, and you're like being really mean to the groups that need the most help. And that's always going to be a red flag for me. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you remember in those episodes, like the panel, everyone was pretty nasty. Yeah. I would say Ms. J, you know, from time to time had some comments, but most constructive criticism was coming from Miss J, as also like one of my first representations of like a queer black person as well. Like, at least some of it I can think back fondly. When you think about like Janice Dickinson, or like that one dude that would take the pictures, the photographer, the bald man, Nigel, they were actively like calling women whales, like. And and then also, like you said, you know, she had a platform, and what she chose to do with that platform when it came to other black representation, she could have done so much more, but like you said, she just wasn't educated, and also that wasn't the climate or the time period for people to be educated on things like colorism, or on things like anti-black like language. Like, they thought that they were just being harsh. They thought that they were being like Gordon Ramsay, but like in reality you were quite literally being racist. quite clearly racist.
Yeah, no, it really was. And I just like, it just bothered me, because it just was like, here was an opportunity to really create like really cool change, but I think sometimes, especially in the black community, we're okay with like change that's substantial enough to like keep us making more, but not really to like make a sacrifice anything. Because I think if she had really like tried to be the change that we needed her to be, she wouldn't have maybe gotten as much acclaim as she would have liked. And I think she like used like the way she bullied people in order to get to where she's at now, to where she is like just chilling, like with her family, living a great life. And I'm not like trying to vilify it for her too much, because you know, like being black is just, in a woman, it's hard. But at the same time, it's like we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you.
We were rooting for you, Tyra.
And you let us down in the like final seconds. And so it's just, you know, like it was right there. You were close, but it just, you missed the mark. And you know, I'm hoping that like she's reflective, and it seems like she kind of is. Like, I'm hoping that she's reflective, and she's just like, you know what, like I could have been better, and like really does that work. We're not gonna know that. She probably never gonna tell us for real, but we can always only hope that that's happening. But yeah, final thoughts, Marz. What are your final thoughts on everything?
Final thoughts. ANTM, you know, some of the best media is always a little bit toxic, I will say. So, you know, I can commend her on the way she was able to build her empire as a black woman. But as a conventionally attractive, light-skinned black woman, that praise only goes so far. Because like we've already said, you know, when it came to our own community and how they were represented and how they were critiqued, it was always much harsher than the white counterparts on that show. So unfortunately, that will remain a stain in her legacy. And she'll have to reckon with that however she decides to. I know that in the later seasons, she definitely, you know, gains a bit more awareness as to how certain groups should be represented. But you have a catalog of, unfortunately, incredibly poor decisions. Like, just outside of colorism and anti-blackness, just, again, it was that, like, trial by fire mentality that women of her generation have, where there were so many young girls that really needed a mentor, and instead they got a bully, like you said. They got someone that was just going to tear them down and assume that that was going to build them back up, when in reality there are so many broken women now that had to grow up that never had no aspirations to even want to be associated with the modeling industry because of their experience on that show. So, you know, it's definitely like a catch-22. It's like, I love it for the comedic aspects of it, even though it's not funny, because it's obviously at their expense, but it's just it was so wild and zany and like unrealistic that you have to laugh looking back on it. Like, how can you be a model if you're not gonna roll around in this dirt with snakes? Like, you look at the fear in your eyes. Like, yes, of course she's scared because she's drowning, Nigel. Like, so, you know, I definitely, I hope she's taken the necessary. I haven't checked in with Tyra in God knows how long, but you know, I can only hope that as every year a new generation is exposed to ANTM and they're like, oh my god, this is crazy, and it blows up on TikTok or whatever the next platform that is popular, I hope she learns a little bit more and clears that conscience.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, while she definitely brought a lot of diversity and inclusion to a degree to the modeling world, because it really was like super white, especially after like the supermodel 90s era. I think there was like a whitewashing that happened, and I think she was able to bring diversity in that time. But because of like the psychological trauma, the physical trauma she caused, mental, emotional, and especially towards like the most marginalized and oppressed people that were part of those contestants, like it just, two things can be true. And I think she, like we said, she missed the mark, and she really had the ability to make really, really cool, effective change, and she traded that in for like sensationalism, you know, forward movement in her career. Because I think she always just wanted that talk show, to be honest. Like, I think that was it. I think that was it, because looking back at it, like, she loved it, even though she wasn't the best at it. And it just, like, it just is really sad. And I feel like whenever you're targeting, like, oppressed and the most oppressed, marginalized people, like, you didn't hit your goal. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You just did enough to, like, help you out. And that makes me sad. But yeah, that was Femininity and America's Next Top Model. This has been like really great. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and well, should we do a Twitter? Yeah, we'll do a Twitter page, maybe. But you
Maybe.
can find us on all the streaming platforms, YouTube, and all your podcasting platforms. Basically, just Femmes at Large, LRG. And yeah, Marz, any closing thoughts? Anything else to look forward to? Anything?
Um, keep on rocking in the free world, free Palestine till it's
Yes,
backwards.
yes, absolutely. Free Palestine, and yeah, everybody just try to find peace where they can. Love over everything, but also love through accountability because people need to be called out.
Always, it's never too late.
Never too late. So we appreciate y'all. Hope to see you soon. Please like, share, subscribe, listen, rate, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.